The camera glides over the churning sea. Waves stain copper in the dying light. Bells toll in the distance, slow, uncertain. A storm is coming, but it's not made of wind or rain. On the docks, people gather, pointing to harbor mouth where a convoy of Genoese trading ships drifts toward shore. Their sails are ragged, the masts swaying like drunkards. The stench reaches the crowd before the ships do, a sour metallic odor, heavy and wrong. Dockhands murmur, "Why no songs? No shouting? They should be celebrating safe return." But the decks are silent, except for the flutter of blackened flags and the occasional thud of something, or someone collapsing. A young boy pushes forward, trying to see, his small fingers curling around the splintered rail. He spots the first sailor slumped against the mast, skin the color of ash, his eyes half-lidded. Purple swellings bulge from his neck and groin like grotesque grapes, and a thick, tar-colored fluid leaks from his mouth. The crowd gasps. Then a scream. A dock worker has recognized his cousin among the dying. Within hours, the city's magistrates order the ships to leave, but it's too late. Some of the sailors, desperate for food and water, have already stumbled ashore. They wander into taverns, collapse in alleys, die in doorways. Nobody yet understands what has arrived with them. Nobody yet knows that the air, the rats, and the fleas now carry death through every street. The wind shifts, carrying the stink inland. The bells keep tolling. The home is warm with the smell of bread baking. But in the corner, a teenage girl lies shivering under blankets. Her mother wrings a damp cloth over her forehead, muttering prayers in a voice frayed by fear. The girl's breathing comes in ragged bursts, each inhale a battle. Her skin is flushed, then pale, then flushed again. Her lips are cracked and bleeding, but it's her neck that terrifies her mother. Two great lumps, swollen and tender, pushing the skin to its limits. She tries to drink water, but chokes. Then comes the coughing, deep, rattling, and wet. When she turns her head, the pillow is dotted with flecks of blackened blood. Her father bursts in from the market, his face pale. "Half the stalls are empty," he says. "The fishmonger is dead. The priest too." He hesitates, looking at his daughter. His lips tremble, but he doesn't speak the word everyone is beginning to whisper. Plague. By dawn, the girl is gone. She dies with her mother's hand in hers, eyes open but unseeing. Outside, a cart rolls down the street, the driver calling in a hollow voice. "Bring out your dead! Bring out your dead!" The father refuses at first. He wraps his daughter in a blanket, rocking her gently like when she was a baby. But the cart passes again, and the stench from the growing pile of bodies is overwhelming. When he finally lays her on the heap, she disappears into a tangle of limbs. The first is family, but not the last. The map of Europe bleeds black as tendrils of infection snake outward from Sicily. Ships from Messina dock in Marseille. Plague leaps to the French coast. From there, it rides caravans along the Rhone, takes ship again to Barcelona and Valencia. slips into Pisa, then up through Genoa to Venice. In every city, the pattern repeats. Rats pour from ships. Fleas leap from fur to skin. Fever blooms. Markets close, then reopen in desperate defiance. Graves overflow. The living fear the dead, and the dead seem endless. In the countryside, farmers abandon their fields, watching from hilltops as the towns below burn their dead in massive pyres. Priests walk with incense burners swinging, chanting for God's mercy, but their numbers dwindle with each passing day. Monks seal themselves in monasteries, only to vanish entirely by spring. Letters carry rumors faster than the plague itself. Some say it's God's punishment for sin. Others blame poison wells or the alignment of the planets. And in the shadows, fear mutates into rage. Suspicion grows toward outsiders, travelers, and strangers. The world begins to shrink. Cities become islands, each one waiting for the tide of death to crash upon its walls. The streets of Avignon are a blur of smoke and incense. The papal city, a fortress of faith, has become a fortress of fear. Wooden carts rattle over cobblestones, heaped with corpses shrouded in sackcloth. The air is thick with the crackle of fire as pyres burn day and night, their sparks swirling into the clouded sky like frantic fireflies. Inside the papal palace, Pope Clement VI sits on a throne draped in black. His face is pale and drawn, his eyes ringed with sleepless shadows. A brazier burns constantly at his side, not for warmth, but in the hope that the smoke will purify the air. Courtiers whisper strange measures. The Pope has granted absolution to all who die of the plague, and has consecrated the Rhone River so bodies can be thrown into its waters without sin. On the streets, priests carry crucifixes high, chanting the Miserere, their voices hoarse. Some processions end with sudden collapse, a priest falling mid-prayer, coughing black blood. Then come the flagellants, barefoot, hooded, and stripped to the waist. They march in grim silence, their whips slicing into their own backs, each lash spraying arcs of blood onto the cobblestones. Onlookers cross themselves or weep openly. The flagellants believe they can cleanse a world of sin through suffering, but their gatherings often spread the plague faster. By summer, the Avignon graveyards are overflowing. Bodies are stacked like firewood against the walls, waiting for space in the mass pits. Even the grave diggers wear rags over their mouths and refuse to touch the dead without long poles. The Rhone flows dark with the weight of uncounted souls. Winter grips the city like a fist. Snow crunches underfoot as a crowd gathers in the central square. At first glance, it could be a festival. Torches blazing, people press shoulder to shoulder, but the faces are grim, and the smell of pitch hangs heavy in the air. A line of men, women, and children stand bound, their clothes ragged, eyes red from cold and fear. They are Jews, a small community that has lived here for generations. Rumors have taken root like weeds, that they poisoned wells, that they brought the plague on purpose, that God demands their punishment. In truth, many Jews are dying just like everyone else. Some communities are even untouched simply because they live apart from others. But to fearful minds, this looks like proof of guilt. The city council has already voted. The accused are offered a choice: convert Christianity or die. Some choose baptism, trembling under the icy water. Others refuse, standing in silent defiance. The pyres are lit. Flames roar to life, casting monstrous shadows on the walls of the cathedral. The crowd's faces glow in the firelight, some weeping, others watching with cold satisfaction. The smell of burning flesh mixes with the bitter winter wind. When it's over, ash drifts across the snow like black snowflakes. Strasbourg's Jewish quarters emptied in a single day. Across Europe, similar purges spread, proof that in the plague years, fear kills nearly as efficiently as the disease itself. The wheat fields stand tall and golden, untouched. No laughter drifts from a village. No smoke curls from chimneys. Only the call of crows and the creak of a wooden sign swinging in the wind. A lone man walks the overgrown path, his boots crunching on the dry earth. His name is John, a tenant farmer's son who left months ago to escape the sickness. Now he's returned, but the land feels strange, hollow. He passes cottages with doors hanging open, tables still set as if for a meal. The bread has gone to mold, the milk to sour water. In the churchyard, the graves are fresh but unmarked. There are too many to count. Some are just mounds of dirt covered with hurriedly laid stones. The smell of decay still lingers under the sweet scent of the fields. John's own home is silent. He pushes open the door and finds his father's boots by the hearth, his mother's shawl folded neatly on the chair. He calls out once, twice, but there is no answer. Upstairs, the bed is neatly made, the crucifix still hanging above it. The plague didn't just kill people, it killed the rhythm of life. The crops go unharvested, the livestock roam free, and the village clock, if it had one, would have stopped months ago. John takes a deep breath and begins to work the fields alone. The scythe bites into the wheat, but each swing feels like a gesture made in a graveyard. The canals lie still under a bruised sky. Mist hangs low, curling around the stone bridges. From the fog, shapes emerge, tall, robed figures with black, bird-like beaks for faces. They walk slowly, gloved hands folded behind their backs, their steps echoing against the damp walls. These are the plague doctors. Their long coats are coated in wax. Their beak masks are stuffed with herbs, rosemary, mint, lavender, sometimes vinegar-soaked sponges. The air is believed to carry the disease, so they breathe only through these strange filters. Inside a dimly lit home, a family crouches in the corner as one of the doctors approaches the sick child. The doctor does not touch him directly. Instead, he uses a long wooden cane to lift the boy's chin, examine the swellings, check for the dreaded black blotches on the skin. The diagnosis is silent and swift. The doctor nods to his assistant, who begins to recite prayers for the dying. Across the city, bizarre cures spread. People press hot irons to buboes. Drink potions made from crushed emeralds or bathe in vinegar. Some bleed themselves with knives, believing the sickness must be let out. Others refuse to eat, fasting until they collapse from weakness, only to die anyway. The doctors, for all their strange appearance, are powerless. Their long beaks are more for fear's theater than for medicine. They walk from house to house like black-cloaked angels of death, leaving behind only the sound of weeping and the rustle of rats in the dark. The Seine glitters in the morning sun, but the city feels hollow. Streets that once rang with the clatter of carts and the cries of merchants are now wide, echoing spaces. Grass grows between the cobblestones. The smell of fresh bread is rare. The bakeries are shut, their ovens cold. A small group of survivors moves through the marketplace. They don't speak much. Words feel heavy now, too costly. They pick through abandoned stalls, finding rotted apples, rusted knives, a child's doll missing an arm. In some neighborhoods, entire households remain untouched, as if the owner stepped out for a moment and never returned. In others, windows are boarded up, painted with crosses or charms meant to ward off death. The survivors are changed people. Some stare into nothing for hours, lost in the faces of dead they cannot bury in memory. Others live with a wild, reckless energy, gambling, drinking, taking lovers, as if daring death to return. Church bells still ring, but now they sound different. Each toll is not just a call to prayer, but a reminder how many voices will never sing hymns again. Paris, like every city touched by the plague, now feels like a vast stage where half the cast has vanished. The survivors wander across it, unsure whether to rebuild the play or simply let the curtains fall. The countryside has begun to stir again. Fields are plowed, but not as many as before. Villages are smaller, quieter. Children's laughter is rare, replaced by the groan of windmills turning in the breeze. The plague has reshaped the very bones of society. With so many dead, labor is scarce, and for the first time, peasants can demand wages that landowners cannot ignore. Serfdom begins to crack. The old lords, once untouchable, now walk among fields themselves or pay dearly for help. Merchants rebuild their trade routes, but they travel with fewer men and lighter loads, wary of far-off ports where sickness may still sleep. Even the church is not what it was. Entire monasteries have vanished. Priests are fewer, and their authority is questioned by those who watch them flee or die helplessly. In taverns and market squares, people talk more boldly about the failures of the powerful, about whether God's hand was in plague, or if it was only nature, cruel and blind. Children born after the plague grow up in a different world, one with more land, more work, and fewer mouths to feed. But they also grow up in the shadow of stories, of the years when death walked in daylight, when carts rattled through every town, and when even the richest, holiest, and strongest could be struck down in a single night. The camera pulls back from a green English hillside, dotted with sheep. The wind blows gently, carrying with it both the scent of spring and the ghostly echo of a cart driver's voice. "Bring out your dead!